Hello everyone, welcome to my channel guys, and yes, in this video I will be talking about the films that I watched in the last couple of weeks. Well, I watched many films, but I will talk about 4 films in this particular video. And I specifically picked up these 4 films because I wanted to share my thoughts briefly, because I know it's been a while and you probably have seen all the reviews regarding these films and you probably have watched the films itself. So yes, this is me sharing my quick thoughts on these, and let us begin. Wonder Woman is currently streaming on Sony Live, and I had the privilege to speak to Anjali Menon about this film at length a couple of days back. Now, when the trailer had dropped, I was very excited for it because of essentially 2 things. Number 1, the theme of the film, and number 2, because this was being directed by Anjali Menon and I had loved her previous work. But the movie did not work the same magic on me as opposed to what Kude or Bangalore Days did. The characters were quite interesting and the movie had a lot of moments where I actually shed a tear, but those were mostly the scenes of Amrita Subhash, who plays the role of Jaya. I mean, she was phenomenal in the movie and easily my favorite character. Apart from Jaya, I also gravitated towards Parvati's character. Honestly, the story had a lot to offer and maybe could have worked better as a web series, where every character gets a proper subplot and we could see their relationship grow more genuinely and organically. If you go back and watch that interview, which is there on Filmcopath's channel, she actually said that she made this movie keeping the OTT audience in mind. But in my opinion, I would have loved a more in-depth glimpse into the lives of the character rather than surface level treatment. So yes, edit wise the movie is quite well paced and the duration is kept short, but it will not make you empathize and connect with the people in the story except for maybe Jaya. This story could have been something really magical, where you highlight the struggles that a woman go through while pregnancy, and not just the woman, even the male counterparts. But right now this movie is just something which is okay, and I sincerely hope that we get more movies in the future related to pregnancy and the entire journey. Now, unless you are living under a rock, which I'm pretty sure you are not, this movie is the remake as well as the sequel of the Malayalam blockbuster Drishyam series, which is written and directed originally by Jeetu Joseph. Now, I have already watched the original Drishyam 2 when it had released on Amazon Prime Video. So when I went in to watch the Hindi remake, I was viewing the film with a completely different lens because I was already aware of the twists and turns. They did not change anything in the main plot or the main storyline. The flow of events are more or less the same. It's just the presentation and the execution of the Hindi film is a little different, so that's why while watching it, it felt different from the original. I watched the film in a packed theater and it's a different emotion when the audience was gasping and clapping at the critical reveals. I mean, just goes to show what an incredible story Jeetu Joseph wrote. The major difference that I found was how the entire context has been set in this particular film. In the original Malayalam film, the story takes its own sweet time to establish the life of George Kutti and family after 7 years since the incident. You spend a lot of time trying to understand how the past event still haunts them, especially the wife and the children. And you see that how slowly that paranoia builds up, which is why the interval block in the original Drishyam 2 feels extremely shocking. Whereas in the Hindi film, all of this setup is pretty much rushed. But I have to clarify that it's not rushed in a way that the sequences would feel incomplete. You would still understand everything, but the pacing here is pretty fast. And you know that the makers want us to get to the investigation part and just finish off this family drama part quickly. Akshay Khanna was a really good addition to the film and he is a total badass in it. There is a sequence where he visits Ajay Devgan's house and it literally kept me on the edge of my seat. I kept thinking of all the possible things that could go wrong in the sequence, so the tension that was made to feel in that particular scene was incredible. There is a song in the film which I did not care about much. It was just taking the narrative a bit forward, so that was okay, but I really liked the BGM. Cinematography wise also the movie fares well, but I would really give a big chunk of the appreciation to the edit of this film. This is why I said that the Hindi one presentation wise feels different and it has to do with the edit. Performance wise, Akshay Khanna was my favorite out of all. I liked Ajay Devgan as well as Tabu in the film, but it was Akshay Khanna who was the show stealer for me. So even after knowing the plot, the movie still managed to entertain me, and that is definitely a win in my books. It just made me respect Jeetu Joseph as a writer and director even more. This is another film that I was extremely excited about after watching the trailer. Now, I am a huge fan of the fantasy genre, and honestly, this movie seemed to show a lot of potential because one, it was based on a lore, and second, it was also trying to give the audience a nice social message. The message of how we shouldn't be so greedy as human beings and try to create a balance between development and preserving the nature. So yes, a huge potential, and I do applaud the makers for their effort. But the impact or the magic that this movie was supposed to create, or I had imagined that it would create, it fails in that expectation. Now, I'm not saying that the movie is bad, it's definitely entertaining, but it just remains a one-time watch. And it personally makes me sad because a story like this had so much potential to become an epic film. And also, it is definitely not horror comedy. It is only comedy with a bit of drama moments. Varun Dhawan really carries this film, and I was so happy to see him give a really good performance on screen. I was honestly disappointed with Kriti Sanan's character, and not because her character was bad. In fact, I was disappointed because I wanted her to have more screen time and a proper arc. Her character is so significant in the film, and she deserved a proper backstory and narrative, which I feel was so rushed. Abhishek was totally wasted in this film because he has fabulous comic timing, but here he was mostly given memes as dialogues. Cinematography and color grading wise, it was quite impressive, but it was the transformation scene where Varun Dhawan transforms into a werewolf. Those VFX scenes were executed very well. The BGM was also impressive, but the songs were extremely forgettable. Like after the movie got over, I did not remember any of the songs. Overall, I would say an entertaining one-time watch, but a truly missed opportunity. And yes, I kept the best for the last because out of all the movies that I had watched, this is definitely my favorite one. Now, it's not a perfect movie by any measure, but it's a good slow burn socio-political drama. While watching the film, you would feel that there are two very different themes going on in the first half and the second half. First theme is obviously Naveen's character Ravi's arc, who people call good for nothing and lazy, but slowly as the movie progresses, we understand the amount of trauma that he has been going through and bottling up. So that obviously forms the major chunk of the first half. But in the second half, where he channelizes all these bottled up rage and emotions into something positive and actually standing up for a cause, that's where the movie becomes so interesting for me. The movie is written and directed by Liju Krishnan, and the theme of this movie, or the plot point, is something that I have seen play out in a lot of other Malayalam films, which show the oppressor versus the oppressed. In this particular movie, what really stays with me are the performances of Naveen Pauly and Shammi Tilakan. And last, when I saw Shammi Tilakan, he was in Paltu Janwar doing a cameo, which was a pretty light-hearted role. But here, he plays the role of a power-hungry politician to perfection. And Naveen's performance kind of reminded me of Muthon's performance, though I would say Muthon was more intense and gritty and dark. But here also, that act of showing your emotions without really saying anything through your eyes, and I could really see the frustration getting to him. And one might think that it's pretty easy to perform those kind of scenes, but it's not. The art of actually emoting through subtlety is probably the toughest form of acting, at least in my books. Loved how much gravitas his character actually had. But there are a lot of loose ends as well, which weighs this movie down. The whole love story seemed a little bit unnecessary to me because it does not have a conclusive end. And I mean, Aditi Balan is truly wasted in this film. Even Shine Tom Chako, I would say that he was truly wasted in this particular film. Like, his role did not really add any major significance to the storyline. Govind Vasant's music was really good, and the entire world building and backdrop of the village was quite impressive. In the last couple of weeks, out of all the movies that I watched, story-wise, this is definitely my favorite pick. In fact, acting-wise also. And if you have not watched this film, it is currently streaming on Netflix. So yes, those were my quick thoughts on these 4 films. If you have watched all the films, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Even if you have watched at least one film out of these 4, I would definitely want to know your thoughts in the comments below. And yes, that was the video, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed watching this, and I'm gonna sign off now, and I'll see you soon on my next one. Bye.